I am
I am recording.
I
Ba, ba,
am
ba.
recording. Ba, ba, ba.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 634th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. I'm your host, Steve. With me is Bobby.
Hello. So I finally saw a Dedenne in Pokemon Sleep this week. And it was shiny, which was the coolest thing. So it was absolutely worth the wait to finally see a Dedenne since it was shiny.
Your first one?
Yeah, they don't come across, you don't come across them too often in Pokemon Sleep. So
Wow.
yeah, it's very exciting.
Wow. Speaking of shiny Pokemon appearing, Chris is here.
What's going on? Not quite as good as a Dedenne, but I like to rank myself around that, I suppose. What's going on? How's it going?
Hello.
Hey, Dynamax, huh? Oh, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Whoops.
Yeah, might be a bit of a Go heavy episode since Pokemon Go added a brand new feature. Pre-gaming a brand new feature, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Before we get to the Pokemon Go stuff, we have some Pokemon Sleep stuff, and then 7-star Incineroars here. There's some new stuff on Pokemon Center. We have a correction from last week, and some other small stuff here and there. Let's there's not any like breaking Sleep news. This is Suicune week, so we'll start off with the Pokemon Sleep stuff. How was everyone's first Suicune week? Did you get your Suicune?
Yes, I sure did. I'm so mad, though. You two will laugh at this. I mathed out the first one, and I was one heart short before it got full off of my first incense. And I was like, oh my gosh, who can I tell that would care about this? And I was like, here's my opportunity. Yeah, no, but I ran it back, got a second incense, and then one Pokeball biscuit.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh, yeah, but I got him. Happy to say I got my beautiful Suicune. We're happy.
Nice.
Chris, are you the player that's like, I need to get as many Suicune as possible, or are you good with like one and done?
I'm good with like 2 or 3 because we get next week too, right? I mean,
2 or 3.
Yeah, two or 3. Like I'm banking biscuits for the next one already. I've got 2 on deck, and an incense, so I should be good to get 3, at least 2. So I guess the answer is yes. I don't know. Are you judging me already? We just started.
Oh, okay. I guess Steve is. I am not. But I also got my Suicune. It also took me 2 incense because I forget how I did it, but yeah, wasn't hungry, so I just went with biscuits, and then it got full. Not as close as to 1 heart left is yours, but yeah. So I needed to run the second incense. Got the Suicune. I think I'm okay with not getting another one. Like, I don't really use Raikou that often. I don't really use Entei that often. So
I don't think I've used them at all.
I don't know that I would use.
No.
Why are you getting 3 Suicune then?
I love Suicune. It's like what Lugia and Suicune are my favorite legendaries. So like I feel obligated, like
okay.
I got to hold the flag for everybody else.
No, like Steve has like 12 Cramorant, so you can't. I mean,
right.
I get it.
That's true.
I get it. But yeah, no, I think I'll be good with the 1, and then I'm just stacking up the main to buy all the other, the main skill seed and the candy the handy candy and then all of that stuff. So we'll see. I might change my mind and want to try for like a shiny one or whatever, but probably not.
I think with Raikou, I got 3, and then I bought the final incense, which I still have to this day.
Nice.
And then with Entei, I got 2, and then I got the incense for a rainy day. And I think with Suicune, I'll probably be the same. I think I'll just get 1 more because I caught my Suicune earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll probably just get like 1 more Suicune and then get the incense before it goes away. And then I just have 3 incense that maybe one day I'll use. I don't know what the occasion would be.
Steve is an incense collector in the way that you are a TCG collector, where you don't open anything. It's like you're a sealed product collector, so
Gotta
you just
keep it
have
sealed.
incense that you're never going to use, and then one
Right.
day you'll sell your sleep account to somebody for a ton of money because you have
Perfect.
legendary beast incense.
PSA 10 Pokemon Sleep account.
So I just checked. I do have 3 Raikou and 3 Entei as well, and I know I have extra incense. So Steve, what is your plan? Do you actually plan on using these at all in the future, or no? Because you, the two of you, are much more into this game than I am. Like, right? Like, I just auto cook and I sleep. I do those
You're
two
an
things.
auto cooker?
I'm an auto cooker.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's right.
When you said that last time, I was like,
Yeah.
auto cook.
My sins laid bare before you in the audience. Absolutely. No shame. Goodness.
I would probably save the incense for I guess a perfect situation would be like, let's say like a future water week or something.
Okay.
Where water type Pokemon are boosted, or you get more candy for them, or there's more dream shards for water type Pokemon. I would probably save a future Suicune incense for that, plus have like an extra Master Ball on deck.
Okay. I think I can do that.
But I would also probably go into my Pokedex and see like, oh, I'm missing Suicune Sleep level 3. So on green grass, you have to be at least like Master Rank 16 to get like level 3 Suicune or something
like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it would have to be a combination of like missing the last Pokedex entry, have a spare Master Ball, usually of like probably an event to coincide with that.
I do have to file one complaint with Pokemon Sleep. I don't have many, just this one. When you complete your sleep research styles for a particular Pokemon, the fact that there's no completion bonus blows my mind.
Oh.
Yeah. I know. I wish they made a little bit of a bigger deal out of the fact that you do complete those those sleep style the sleep style decks, I guess, for like a specific Pokemon.
Yeah. Because there's so many in the game that like all the milestones to unlock the other things with those, you're going to hit that no problem. And so there's really no reason to like want to hunt down like you're missing one, because there's so many other low-hanging fruit you could get for that total number, right?
That's true. You don't, there's not anything. I guess it's just getting unlocking the next like section or whatever, right? So to that point, I actually unlocked Lapis this week as well. So I was excited to get to that point too. But so I guess you have that, but it would be kind of nice with all the other bonuses that they give you. Like you caught 10 normal types, you researched 20 normal types, and it's 10 diamonds or 15 diamond or whatever it may be. Like it would be kind of cool if you got a little bonus for completing an individual Pokemon's sleep style decks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Bobby's going to go to Lapis next week. You could go to Lapis for Suicune.
Don't do it.
I thought about it because this was my logic, and then someone in the Slack actually corrected me, which was good, because so we know we get like a bigger Snorlax for week 2, right? We know it starts at a higher level, or like a higher, it starts at a higher level. So on green grass in the past, it has started at Ultra 4, right? But because Cyan and Lapis have different power to get to certain levels, right? So like your Snorlax that you get on Lapis is going to start at not Ultra 4, right? It's going to start at a lower level than it would be on green grass, right? Because it's just it's the sleep power that it's the sleep power that's going to be is the same between the islands, but that sleep power is going to get you is going to get you further on green grass than it will get you on Lapis.
Right. So if green grass is Ultra 4, Lapis is probably going to be like Great 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was misunderstanding it to think like, oh, if I'll start way ahead on Lapis, and then it was corrected to like, no, you won't actually start way ahead on Lapis. Like you'll only be like Great 1 when
and
you
you'll
start
also
Lapis,
just see Ekans and Bulbasaur and Bellsprout on Lapis.
Yeah.
So if you're low rank, that's all you're getting.
Yeah. So all of that to say, I thought about going to Lapis, and because I'm going to be using a good camp ticket and everything too. So I was like, well, maybe this is where I just jump right in. No, No, I'm
I
gonna
think
end up.
my
I'm going to beach. I'm going to beach. So
first week on Lapis, I also used a good camp ticket, and I think I ended at like Ultra 3 or something.
Yeah, no, I had a very demotivating time on Lapis twice, and I'm like, I'll come back in a year. How about that? You know, like, gosh.
I might go to Lapis though this week. You're gonna go to beach, Chris. Where are you gonna go?
I'll probably go to beach as well. I'm good with green grass for a couple of weeks, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm only going to Lapis because I'm still looking for Ralts. So
Oh yeah,
this is just the lifelong journey for you, just to find out roles.
I think Dedenne is also on Lapis, and I think Cramorant's also on Lapis. No, Cramorant's I think on Snowdrop.
Yeah.
But Dedenne's on Lapis. Lapis.
Lapras.
There is no Lapras in the game.
Not yet. But what was I gonna shoot? Cyan. I was thinking about how there's so many. So like, there's so many water Pokemon, obviously because it's Suicune week. But I feel like I'm like water Pokemon out at this point, just because there was so much. I think it's because Raikou happened and then Entei happened just a month later, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was just starting, so there wasn't a whole lot of time between there. But then there was like a 2-month gap between Entei and Suicune. But like, because Entei happened so quickly after Raikou, it was like immediately like, oh, I need to catch fire Pokemon. And then when Entei left, it was like, I need to start catching water Pokemon. Except that then that dragged out for 2 months instead of 1 month. And so I'm like water Pokemon out because I've been focusing on water Pokemon for like 2 months to get, leading up to Suicune week. So I'll be ready to like, maybe I'll be going back to Taupe after all of this is done. Maybe I'll just go back to Taupe this week and forget Suicune altogether.
There you go.
I think
You got your one.
Not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I think it's so interesting how almost perfect the pacing is in Pokemon Sleep. Like for Pokemon Day, they announced 3 legendary Pokemon. And I think that's all we're getting this year. Like, I don't think we're getting like a Ho-Oh or a Lugia or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
And classic Ho-Oh and Lugia, Niantic's 2 favorite legendaries. But like after Suicune week is over, we're pretty close to like a Halloween event. And then after that, we're real close to, they'll probably do the Eevee week again because the Eevee day is November 11th or something like that. And then after that, we'll get the Christmas event and then a New Year's event. And then they could probably chill for like 3 weeks. And then it's Pokemon Day, and Pokemon Day, they can announce 3 more legendaries or whatnot. And we can do the whole cycle again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, to me, it's like relatively good pacing, because we have all these other events in between. And I think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of players would maybe like a new island or something more, but like they can still introduce new Pokemon with these events. They can still bring back old events.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get more Hat Pikachu eventually. We have 2 in the game. It's been a year. We only have 2 costume Pikachu in the game.
Outrageous.
Yeah, I missed both of them, unfortunately. When are they going to unlock trading or open up trading in Pokemon Sleep? That's what we really need.
Yeah, we need Wonder Trade in
able to
Pokemon
trade
Sleep.
for costume Pikachu.
Yeah. So I mean, Steve, you mentioned like, getting a new spot, like a new place to go would be great. But at the same time, we were just talking about like how Snowdrop and Lapis are like, like kind of untouchable for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us that have been playing every single day. I mean, like obviously I'm very casual, but I've played every day, and I still can't even like make a meaningful dent in Lapis, really.
Yeah. I do wonder if they would ever add an island that isn't focused on, that isn't so far ahead, right? So it's like right now after Lapis, it's like 240 sleep styles to get Lapis unlocked. So then the next mark to hit is 290 sleep styles, which obviously doesn't unlock anything because Lapis is the last one. But I find it would be tough if they were now releasing another island where you had to have more than 290 sleep styles. Like, I feel like they would want to do something where people that are newer could also like get in on it somehow. So, but I don't know how they would do that, but that would be cool if they added something and then it wasn't just like, oh, now you have to have even more sleep styles to get that next island.
Well, this February will be Pokemon Sleep EX. They're going to redo everything and how it's structured. Well, they did do that update where if you were maxed out on something like green grass and you went to green grass, that 5% would go elsewhere. So you could be powering up Snowdrop, for example, without ever going to Snowdrop. I don't think that makes Snowdrop like any better of a place unless you really want like a Snover, which isn't like a particularly great Pokemon, but
Chris disagrees.
I mean, I like Snover as a Pokemon. Who doesn't? You know, but I could not speak to its usefulness in sleep. I can barely speak to Suicune's usefulness in sleep at this point. So, you know, I'm going on favorites here. You know, it's a vibe. You know,
yeah,
that's totally fine. Speaking of Suicune, the music for Suicune Week has been awesome. I would say of the three legendaries we've had so far, the Suicune Week music is definitely my favorite. It's been great.
Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's switch gears over here to Incineroar. The 7-star Incineroar made its debut literally like an hour after we were done recording the show last week. They announced Incineroar. So that completes the Blueberry Academy Elite Four, which they were going in order. They did go in order. It's just in between they sprinkled other Pokemon. So it was Blaziken for Crispin. I got to remember the Elite Four's name. Blaziken for Crispin. Empoleon for Amaris. Was that her name? And then Primarina for Lacey. Sceptile for Drayton. That's not his name, Drayton.
That sounds right.
No, that's okay. And then Incineroar for Kieran. So we have completed the Elite Four plus champion Cinco. The 5 of them. The Elite Four is never just 4 people. That leaves 4 starter Pokemon left. We have Feraligatr left. We have Torterra, Infernape, and Serperior. So we have 4 starters. That should get us through the end of the year, but they could also do like a Christmas Pokemon like they did last time. They did Iron Bundle last time for Christmas. They could just do a straight up 7-star Delibird. That would be cool.
Didn't they do that 2 years ago?
I think they did 5-star Delibirds.
Okay.
And they were just various Terra types, and I think they were dropping nuggets.
Okay.
They could do a 7-star Obama Snow.
Again, appealing to the vibe, you know? Yeah.
I'm if I'm going to guess Terra types, I did think that Feraligatr was going to be dark type Terra because of its ability and because it gets quite a few dark type moves. I thought Infernape was going to be electric type Terra because of Goku
Thunder
and
Punch.
Thunder Punch and Dragon Ball Z reference.
Yeah. There we go.
I don't know about Serperior. I think if you pair its ability with Stellar, that makes sense, but I don't think they're just gonna give Serperior Stellar.
No, I think this would be grass.
What about flying?
Boring.
Does flying make sense for Serperior?
Aerial Ace? I don't know, man.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
Superior could also just be Dragon too. It gets a lot of Dragon type moves.
Yeah,
that's true.
As well. And then what was the other one? Torterra. I have no clue for Torterra.
Ground.
I'd have to.
I feel like ground.
But it's already ground.
Wait, Torterra is grass ground?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did I not know this? I was thinking Torterra was pure grass for some reason.
No, grass ground.
Okay, well then not ground.
We did get a ground Venusaur.
Okay.
Which made sense for Venusaur.
Right.
Because it ran Earth Power.
I don't know for Torterra. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know for Torterra.
Rock type? Does it know any rock type moves? Am I just making
I
this
think
up?
it does.
Okay.
If I was to really stretch, if my mental gymnastics is as flexible as it can be, I would say fairy, because the cherry blossoms of the bonsai tree, something like that. I don't know, but I don't think it gets any fairy moves. So that's just me talking out loud. Ignore that.
Has there been a Terra type, a type not in the 7-star? I don't know if you can remember this.
The last one was dark, so
Yeah,
Incineroar
last one was-
completed that. Yeah,
But there's been the last type was dark.
yeah.
No, Charizard was dark.
Charizard was dragon.
I keep forgetting because the TCG Charizard, the Terra is dark.
Yes,
So-
in the TCG, Charizard is
I
dark.
keep forgetting that the 7-star was dragon.
But I think in the TCG, the Charizard is dark because it makes references to Freed's Charizard, which is
Yes.
spoiler for the 3rd episode of the anime. Freed's Charizard is dark.
Yeah. Well, we also did get a dark Terra Charizard as a gift at one point in time in Scarlet
Yes,
and
a
Violet.
mystery gift distribution.
Yeah.
The I do a lot of 7-star raids. A lot. I do probably
Yeah.
more 7-star raids than maybe any other person ever. I sit there every weekend. They come out. We have a rotating cast of Twitch viewers, or even people from the Slack or the Discord that don't really watch Twitch, but they'll pop in and they'll be like, I can't get this done. Can you help me? And I have a pretty good track record of getting the move sets right. I do these YouTube videos of breaking down what I think is going to happen, and I think I've gotten everyone right except Mewtwo, but literally no one got Mewtwo right because Mewtwo was in its own category of uniqueness. And then the only one I really got wrong, the only one I definitely got wrong, was Meganium. Did not expect a Psychic Meganium to run a fighting type body press moves. April Fools to me.
There you go.
So Incineroar ran Darkest Lariat. It ran Flare Blitz. Those are the 2 moves that I was for sure going to get. It opens up with Taunt, which if you look at my YouTube video, I go, it's probably going to open with Taunt. And then it had Earthquake, and then Iron Head. So I do. There has to be part of me that's somebody at Game Freak who's just, I don't know how many people. Is it one dude at Game Freak that's you're in charge of the 7-star raids, figure it out? Or is it a team of people? But there's part of me that's thinking they must know what Pokemon are popular, or what Pokemon are seeing the most usage in raids, or they must have some sort of concept of we want to see our players lean in this direction and build these counters for this Pokemon. They have to have a solution to the puzzle they are building. And that's what 7-star raids are. They're just a puzzle. Once you figure out the puzzle, they're relatively easy, unless Cindy over here is bringing a level 62 Hoopa, and then it's an auto loss because there ain't no way that Hoopa's surviving anything. And all week when I was building raid stuff or we were leading up, people were like, Dosh Bun has to be perfect here, right? You gotta bring the Dosh Bun. Oh, sorry, Dox Bun. You gotta bring the dog. And I was like, I don't think so, man. I think the dog's a little dead weight, because the dog can't, because the concept was Doxbun would take a fire type move, increase its defense, and then body press, which is super effective against Incineroar. And I'm like, but what if the Incineroar doesn't want to use a fire type move against you? Then your defense doesn't go up, and then your body presses don't do anything. And what if Incineroar has bulk up, which it ends up having, and you're a +3 Doxbun and the Incineroar's +6, and it ain't using any fire type moves against you, so I don't know what your little doggy's gonna do. And that's exactly what happened, because the Incineroar would use a super effective Iron Head instead of the not effective Flare Blitz, and then the little doggy does not go bark bark. He goes dead.
Back in the Pokeball.
Yeah. Dead.
For our audio listeners, Bobby's on the verge of tears right now. The other thing I'll say is I absolutely love 7-star raids. I think they're so fun. I've talked about how raids are some of my favorite content in Pokemon games. And there's always this conversation of like whether they're too easy or whether they're too hard. And I think that's such a hard thing to like pinpoint, because going back to what I said earlier, if you know what to do in the raid, let's say it's the three of us in a raid. It's me, Bobby, and Chris. We all know what to do. We all brought adequate counters, and we just a fourth random person joins, and we have no clue. On paper, it looks like they're bringing an okay Pokemon, and the raid starts, and their Pokemon's not level 100. It's like level 80. Let's say they brought a Blastoise. Cool. Blastoise seems to be okay. It has high defense, resist fire type moves, resist the Iron Head. But the Blastoise level 80. Its moveset is Surf, Bubble Beam, Waterfall, Skull Bash. There's no held item. So you can say that like, oh, this raid is easy. Me, Chris, and Bobby have completed it 10 times, no problem. But the second that fourth person joins, you're like, oh, we literally cannot win. Like this person's just going to get knocked out. No matter what, we'll set the reflex, we'll do whatever, but they're going to get knocked out. We're going to lose timer. They're going to come back in. They're going to get knocked out. We're going to lose timer. And now the raid is over. Now we failed. So
good vibes only does not work in this case, is what you're getting at. Is that what you're saying? I see.
Yeah.
Different game than Sleep for sure. But
I think it
is that difficult. Is that difficulty though? Or like, I mean, like, okay, so it's definitely a pain point, right? Because you can't be like, okay, I'm gonna set up this group and only level 100 can join, right? So I guess it poses an interesting question, like in order to make that format of the puzzle, like you're describing, work for more players and be more appealing, to make it easier, so like a level 80 could still succeed with a greater margin of error, or do you keep that sort of like almost competitive nature of like min-maxing a Pokemon and then hoping and praying that everybody else is as serious about it as you are as you get into these groups? Or are they trying to force you to go to these communities where you're curating your entire team and that's that, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, what would help the most is if more people just watched Steve's videos on YouTube. And
I send them to everybody. Yes.
This is not an ad for my YouTube channel. Well, I think like the amount of work you have to do to unlock 7-star raids is kind of crazy. You got to beat the game. You got to meet Mr. Ed Sheeran at the end. And then after you meet Ed Sheeran, you have to re-battle all the gym leaders, which is not like, it's not like a 10-minute thing.
Right.
That's like an hour and a half of like a slog, like a huge slog you have to do. And if you just beat the game, I feel like as soon as credits roll and they're like beat 8 more gym leaders, you're like, give me like a day or two to like decompress. Like you want me to. So after you beat 8 gym leaders, you got to do the tournament, which again is just more battles. It's just a lot of battling. So that's another 4 battles that you got to do. And then after that, you got to do, what is it, like 10 5-star raids or something like that?
Something like 10 or 15 5-star raids.
Like it is a little weird, a little crazy that you have to do that much work. And then when you get there and you go to like the random, because sometimes I'll also jump in like the random, like the 7-star raid roulette. I'm like, I want to see what other people are bringing. And you get there and you're just like, what are these Pokemon choices? Like, why are you deciding to bring this to this raid? Like, I don't know what your moveset is. I don't know if you're holding a held item. I don't know what level you are. I just know that this Pokemon is going to faint right away because it's weak to dark type. And like I saw somebody lock in Golden Go. Like, you're weak to fire and you're weak to dark. I'm gonna guess it's level 100 because that's probably why you're locking it in. Like, it's my only level 100, so I'm gonna lock it in.
Yep.
I know we've had this conversation before. I want to have it again. I absolutely hate. I will always give pushback when people say Pokemon is a kid's game. I hate it. I hate it. It's the same energy of like you telling somebody. This is not a perfect analogy, but it's the same energy of you telling somebody you're like a wrestling fan and them being excited to tell you that it's fake. Like, brother, I know. Like, if we're watching Game of Thrones on the couch together, I'm not gonna lean over and go, "Hey, did you know dragons aren't real? This show is fake because those aren't like I know it's not real, but I don't like. No one ever does this to like somebody playing Mario. Like, they don't lean over and they're like, "Hey, Super Mario Brothers, that's a kid's game." Like, no one ever.
So I think where that may come from, at least for some people. I can't say for all, obviously, but for instance, for the wrestling is fake thing, I think that might be more internal for them because at one point in their life they didn't know wrestling was fake, and when they found out it was, they were probably so disappointed.
Their whole world shattered.
That they had to now tell other people that it's fake because they felt so bamboozled when they found out that wrestling was fake when they were growing up. That they now have to put that on others so that they aren't the only ones that feel bad for learning that. And I think that same thing may kind of go for something like Pokemon, where it was like, as a kid, I think all of us are in the position where when we were kids, I think we're all around the same age, in that when we were kids, Pokemon was really fun and popular. And then we got to an age where it wasn't popular to like Pokemon anymore, right? There was a stage of school, right, where people were like, you don't play Pokemon, that's not cool.
Well, there was a lot of things in that stage of school that were not popular.
Absolutely. It was a very narrow path to follow, right? But I feel like it's that same thing. It's those same people who loved Pokemon or had that like passion or loved that thing as a kid and then got like made fun of at some point, or then got you can't like this, it's not cool, and then got stuck in that. And then as they grow up, they're like, yeah, Pokemon's a kid's game because I had to stop playing it at a certain age, you know, and so it's a kid's game. It's not a game for adults or whatever.
These
I think
people
it kind
need
of goes along
therapy.
the same line.
Yeah, they really do. Honestly,
that would be helpful.
There's no like denial that when the Pokemon boom happened in the late 90s, that they did heavily marketed towards kids, but that's like no different than Nintendo heavily marketing towards boys because video games were seen as a boy toy, whereas like, oh, girls don't play video games. But obviously that's just not true. But again, I think that falls in that same stigma of like, well, games are for kids / games are for boys, where it's like, no, gaming is for everyone, like men, women, boys, girls, non-binary, like for everyone. And
absolutely.
So when people say, oh, Pokemon's like, you're just playing a kid's game, it's easy for everyone, it gives that like that energy of like, also video games should be for boys.
Definitely. Well, it also gives that energy of like video games should be for kids. And I think when we were kids, adults, all kinds of people played video games as long as video games have been a thing, obviously. But I do feel like our generation, and I guess the one right before us as well, kind of grew up with video games, and now this generation is all adults, right? And so I feel like games are even marketed toward more toward everybody than kids than they ever have been in the past, right? Like things are now marketed toward everyone when it comes to video games, because I think I'm safe to say like more adults play video games now than did when we were kids, I would say. And I think that's because there's more options. It's more availability. When you bring in mobile as well, there's just a lot more of access to it for people of all ages, right? So it is a weird argument to then be like, oh, this is a kid's game or whatever, because it takes me back to feeling like when I played video games as a kid, and then like all the adults were like, this is such a kid thing, like just for playing video games in general, when it's like it really never has been. But
Bobby,
like
when
the
are you
way
going
they
to grow
market
out
it,
of these video games?
yeah, exactly.
I remember my dad introducing me to like really early video games when I was really small, and the one family computer in the basement. I challenge adults today to go try to complete Myst by themselves. Are you kidding me? That game came out like in the mid 90s or whatever. You can't even do that today without a guide. Like,
Yeah.
come on. No, this is just a stigma that has thankfully sort of like fallen off. I mean, like, and then you sort of get close to the whole, are video games art conversation. I feel like it is in the same room as this conversation, right? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like people confuse accessibility with things being for children only. That's not the case. Just because a child can participate doesn't mean that it's just for kids, right? I mean, anybody can play a Pokemon game. Anybody can play a Pokemon game and find some success in it. It's designed to do that. So it doesn't scare people off or make them upset when they play it, you know? But there's the other end of the spectrum, which are these 7-star raids you're describing, that if it isn't next to perfect, it's going to fall apart, you know?
Yeah, there's like a level of preparation that you need to do for a 7-star raid. And I think that's great. And I think that not everyone knows that preparation or knows where to go for that preparation or what to check. But to go back to like the kid conversation, like I think the first day that 7-star raid, the first day that Incineroar came out, no fails, probably cleared it like 30, 40, 50 times. Every time I go through, it's just a different set of people, right? Like just drop your code, I'll join, other people will join, we'll help you do it. Easy. We got through it. And then yesterday, while I was doing it, or the day before, I don't remember, I don't even know what day it was. For some reason, we had a bunch of like new people who probably found it through Twitter or whatnot, and they were like, I built this, it wasn't working. I built this, it wasn't working. And instead of me being like, build my builds, how dare you build what you saw on the internet? I was just like, cool, we'll make this work and we'll go through it. Like somebody was like, all I got is a Regirock. I was like, okay, I'm assuming your Regirock is like body press. That's fine. And the first time we did it, they like terrestrialized rock type Regirock, and they had like a Rocky helmet on their Regirock. And I was like, this isn't working. And they're like, well, this is kind of all I have. And I was like, great. I was like, just change it to fighting type Terra and get a Shell Bell. And they're like, oh, I don't have a Shell Bell. I was like, cool, you can buy it in Lavencia or whatever. They came back, perfect. Like we just changed 2 things on their Pokemon. Just give it a fighting type Terra and give your Regirock a Shell Bell. Didn't die, didn't have any problems, performed perfectly. And it's so like there is preparation to it, but also like if you only have a specific Pokemon, there are just like minor changes you can make to make it work. Like, I guess if this person didn't have 50 fighting Terra shards, they'd definitely be in trouble. Or if they didn't have 20,000 Pokédollars to buy a Shell Bell, they would be in trouble.
Yeah, but also that you have to think about what comes with that is the extensive knowledge that you have in how to do, like the fact that you know, oh, this is what they're probably going to bring with that Regirock. Like this is what you should change it to do that. This is what you should do that. Like there are a lot of people who don't know Pokemon and know like the moves, the abilities, what to like weakness to what, like in the same way that you do.
I thought it was a kid's game though. Aren't they doing that in the playground? They're writing in chalk EVs and IVs on the
Absolutely.
They're quizzing each other on abilities and what water bubble does.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously with the internet, there's a lot more accessibility to reference all of that and to to understand that. But I think a lot of people go into these 7-star raids just wanting to beat them, but I don't know that they're like that they know enough about their Pokemon to know that, like without someone telling them like, oh, change it to fighting Terra and then add like Shell Bell. I don't even know where I I don't even know where I would start to look on the internet if I wanted to try to figure that out. Like,
Oh, I
with
see what
my
you're saying.
specific Regirock that I have.
Like you can't
how
type
can
into Google how
Yeah,
to
like-
make Regirock better.
work
Yeah,
for
yeah.
7-star Incineroar? Like, like, because there's so little time between these things, that if you don't have someone like yourself who like has that knowledge ready to go and to give you, like, it's obviously a lot harder to do something like that. So to your point, like, there is preparation needed for these raids, which I also appreciate, because you look like a year and a half or 2 years later, and you can just look back at all the, like, now level 100 Pokemon that you've built up, and like all these things that you now have for the future, right? That you'll be able to take into home and bring to a future game, which is really cool. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people aren't going to do that preparation, and then they're going to jump in, and it's like, if it's not working out, where do I go again? Where do I go to figure out, well, I have my Regirock, and my Regirock's my only thing, and now I have no idea what to do with it to turn it into something that actually works for this, without having like a guide, without having someone there that already knows what they're doing, which is where you come in. But like, it's tough otherwise.
I'm looking forward to the next generation of Pokemon, and whatever the gimmick is, that everybody's going to have their Azumarill and the Iron Hands ready to go. Everybody.
Here's my last thing about 7-star Incineroar is going with the, like, Pokemon is for kids. So when I hate doing 7-star raids with people, because it must be the kids that are bringing the bad counters or are failing. This is what I will say. I was a kid once too. And when I was 10, 11, 12, I would carry around these strategy guides of Ocarina of Time, Final Fantasy IX, Pokemon Gold and Silver. I would carry these in my backpack. I would read them every night from start to finish, because I had, like, as a kid, I had limited video game time. I was only allowed like 1 or 2 hours of video games a night. So it's like, if I can't play the video game, then I'm going to read about the video game. I knew what was going to happen in Final Fantasy IX 3 discs early, because I read the heck out of that. And maybe it was a different time, different place, because strategy guides aren't very common now. But when I did have my limited internet time, I would look up how to do things in games that, like, I'm stuck in this game, and I would go to, like, game FAQs or game cheats, because if it was even that hard, it was like, okay, I can at least skip the level with ABYY24. Like, I'll just skip the level and move on, right? I think that kids are so talented and so much smarter than people give credit for. And, like, when they're playing Fortnite, for example, which I do think more kids play Fortnite than Pokemon, it's not like they're putting the 8-year-olds in a different lobby than the 36-year-old. That's not happening. You are losing to a child. You just don't know that there's a child on the other end of that screen. Like, the person who killed you in Fortnite is not like some 27, well, maybe it is a 27-year-old, but not always like some 27-year-old who is, like, no-lifing Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
Although I'm sure that's the case.
I've lost so many Battle or Rocket League matches to 10-year-olds. I'm sure of it, and they just destroy me. And that is absolutely fine.
And don't forget that the kids, they're on their phones too, while you're at home on a couch with your Pro controller. And you're losing to that. It's crazy.
I feel like most of the failures are just adults. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of how I know they're adults. Number 1 is that you, as an adult listening to this podcast, have probably gone to IKEA, and you have probably purchased an IKEA set of furniture. And when you got it home, you threw away the instructions and went, I don't need that. That's number 1. Number 2 is watch any adult try to board an airplane.
Oh, true. Preach, Steve.
They cannot follow instructions at all. Even when somebody over the loudspeaker is like, everyone stay seated. If you are main cabin 1, please get up. And then people just stand, they just get up and stand there in front. they just don't follow instructions at all. It is mind-boggling. Just go to like anyone who's like, no, these are all kids failing. No, it's you. It's you. You're the problem. You're the person standing in front of everyone's way at the airport because you're not listening to instructions. No one's taking your seat. 34B is going to be there whether you get on the plane first or last. Like, calm down, buddy. Stop bringing water-type Terra Pokemon to Incineroar. All right, that's my rant. We are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about more raid battles, but this time in Pokemon Go. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. Go big with Dynamax Pokemon and Max raid battles. So Dynamax is here.
Woo! Well, kind of.
2 Pokemon. Max raid battles should be happening next week. And we're right now we're in pre-game mode. I think the Max raid battles start on Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday the 10th. So the day after this comes out.
And then starting today, or by the time this podcast goes up, you should be able to purchase Max Raid Particle Packs for $7.99 according to this blog post by Niantic. You won't need to do that if you've at least played this past week, and maybe if you live in the middle of nowhere, maybe not. But I have so many thoughts about what is happening right now in Pokemon Go, and I wish they were more positive. But I think, I don't know. Here's what I will say. I guess I'll start. When they added the new POIs, points of interest, in Pokemon Go, which are the what I don't even know what they're officially
Power
called.
spots.
Power spots. When they added the power spots to the map, that in itself was exciting, and I think great. The fact that we've had Pokestops and gyms for ultimately 8 years. Well, I guess 7 years. No, 8 years.
8 years.
Like, there should have been another POI of something. And if you look at like what was that Harry Potter game, there was like 4 different POIs. Pikmin has, I think, 3. Anyways, so first off, adding a bunch of new POIs instantly, like I wanted to drop everything. I was like, I want to put my shoes on. It's super nice out. I want to go walking. Like, I want to leave my house to play Pokemon Go, which last week, if you remember, I said, I don't think for me, I know for me that adding Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble to the game is not enough for me to go outside. It's just not. They'll appear in my house. I'll pin up them. I'll catch 20 of them in my house with pin apps, and then I'll have enough to have a Cinderace, whatever.
Steve apparently lives at the Mall of America. He's getting tons of spawns of Pokemon at his house.
But what about a Dreepy on your nearby? If you see that, are you leaving your house to go get it? I mean,
Dreepy, maybe.
No. Here's the thing about Steve.
You're lying.
Chris.
No
Here's
way.
the thing about Steve. Steve doesn't catch the things on his nearby because Steve says that he can no longer then see where they are for future reference.
Yeah, understood.
What is the point if you then never have the Pokemon?
Right.
I'm just waiting to Dreepy Community Day in 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I'll have them all. So the new POIs, like, that got me to go out. I actually went out 2 days in a row, like, where I'm like, I'm not even running errands or anything. I'm just going out and I'm playing, because I did the swirly thing or the tap and hold, and they all come together. That's a very Pikmin thing, by the way. That's like 100% a mechanic they just took from Pikmin.
I love it though. It feels great.
Yeah, no, it feels awesome.
Yeah.
And then I got to like, you have collected 800 for the day, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, okay, that's great. Like, I was only out here for a half hour. It's saying I'm done for the day. I can only get 800. If I'm thinking in my head 800 every day, that's a lot of particles. That's fine. And then there's like an extra 200 for walking or whatever.
Yeah.
300?
It's 300 for walking 2 kilometers, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that also makes sense. Like if you don't live in a big city like me and you don't have a lot of stops you can go to get the particles, you can just literally walk and you can get like 300, right? 300.
Mhm.
You can just get 300 for walking. So even after I completed my 800 particles, which was relatively quick because I live in a big city, I was like, I'm just going to keep walking because I want the other 300. And that is where I ran into the first issue. Which is, yes, you can only spin 8 of those stops or whatever, those POIs, but you can't go over 1,000.
Right.
1,060 technically is what it caps it at for some reason.
Yeah, there's like a trick where you can get like 1,020 if you do it in a certain order,
yeah.
but like
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, so my first day with this experience, I was really happy. I was like, new POIs, I like spinning them. 800 a day seems fine. That's weird that I can't redeem my last 300 and push me over 1,000. I didn't realize until the second day, because spoiler, people are mad about this mechanic.
Shocking.
I didn't realize that 1,000 is just your limit. So when I go back out for day 2 and I'm excited to get my 8 Pokestops, I'm excited to walk my 2 kilometers again, I can't do any of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I have to spend it. So so this is why I didn't want to come on the show and be negative, but my first day with this experience was so good because I was like, we're in pregame mode. We're just pregame until next week. I'm going to go out every day and get my 800 because I genuinely had a good time going out and getting my 800 thing. And I was like, I'm going to get 800 every single day. I'm going to be stocked for when Dynamax drops on the 10th. But there's this weird 1,000 cap. And so day 2, I can't spin any of my Dynamax stops. I can walk, but I can't redeem it.
Yeah, and I think the question is then just like, why don't you just spend it, right? Have you progressed enough in the research to get your Wooloo yet?
Yeah, so I have 2 Wooloos and I have a Squavit. And all 3 of those Pokemon are 2 stars. So I would be willing to, like, I did spend it. I did spend it for the sake of, like, I'm going to spend it to then do a little bit more and then to also talk about on the show that I spent it. But I don't have anything to spend it on, right? Like, I don't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the general, like, mindset of a Go player of being like, oh, this is a Charmander, but it's like a 3, 5, 6. Like, I'm going to hold on to these candies. I'll probably transfer this one. I will find a better Charmander eventually. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that doesn't happen for 6 months, right? Or whatever. Doesn't happen until the community day happens, right? But then you are stocked and ready to go. And you cannot do that with this. You can't plan ahead. You have to invest in what you have on hand. Otherwise, you're just sitting there at like 10%, the entire time of what it will take at the end of the day. Right.
I will say that we don't actually know what a Dynamax raid looks like, right? Because we're recording this before.
Correct.
Yeah, max battles we don't.
So if max battles are dramatically different, cool. If they're the same, there isn't going to be a difference between a 2-star Wooloo and a 3-star Wooloo, right? Like, just unlocking the max move is probably going to be more important than like 10 10 10 verse 12 12 12 IV Wooloo, right?
Yeah, right.
I will say, okay, so going back to like going out and exploring, once I realized the cost, so to upgrade a max move, I wish I should have this in front of me. It was like what? It was like 40
you have
Wooloo candy.
You have to unlock them first. To unlock it, and the first level is 400 max particles and 50 candy. Mm-hmm. And then I
don't think is bad.
Yeah, and then to upgrade that after that is like quite a bit, and then from 2 to 3 requires like XL candy too. So I know a lot of people are getting gated by their Wooloo candy, not even the max stuff at this point in time.
Yes. So for max guard, it is 450, 400 particles, 50 candy. For max guard level 2, it is 1,000 particles and 150 candy. And then for max level 3, which is the max level, is 1,800. Which, how do you get that? How do you get 1,800 if you can only hold 1,000?
I think that's total cost, right?
Yeah.
Is it total
yeah,
cost?
It is.
Yeah.
Because if you do spend the 400 to unlock it, then when you go to level 2, it's only 600.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've got my Wooloo at level 2 for each of its stuff, and to get to level 3 on each of those, it's 380 particles and 66. It's 800 and 800 particles and 40 XL candy.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I was looking at how much I had.
I see. Okay, so that actually makes it cheaper than I think it was going to be. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it has to be under the 1,000, right? Which would make sense. Otherwise, gosh, what are we doing?
Okay.
But the 40 XL candies is not a small ask from 2 to 3.
No, it really isn't.
We also don't know like how drastic is 2 to 3.
True. Like, is 3 completely necessary? Right.
Right.
Or could you just
I
get
guess.
through with 2? Possibly.
But so that process I don't think is bad either. I have so many good things to say, but then I think about like the limit is what bothers me the most.
Yeah.
So going back to what I said earlier, I wasn't excited to just go out and get Grookey, Scorbunny, Sobble, partly because like they can't be shiny. There'll be community days for those. They're not going anywhere. Like those in themselves, I'm just not excited to go out. But when Niantic was like, okay, your first Dynamax Pokemon is going to be Wooloo, I was catching every Wooloo I saw. I was actually pin-apping every Wooloo I saw too, because I wanted to then power up that Wooloo.
Yeah.
And I even got my like Lopunny out so I can get more XL candy. Like,
wow,
look at you go!
Really?
In my
dug in.
In my head,
Wow.
I see the vision Niantic wants. It's almost like they're trying to fix their economy of, well, we understand that some players don't even use their candy at all, or they don't know what to use their candy in. Here is something you can use your candy in that isn't just like bringing your Pokemon up to 50, because it doesn't require Stardust. And I think a lot of players don't want to power up their 98% Charmander because they could get 100% Charmander. And I don't even think it's the candy that's the problem. I think it's the Stardust that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm looking and I'm like, okay, this is only 400 to power this up, and then the next day it's going to be 400, and then or 600, and then the final day it's going to be 1,000. I'm thinking, that's great. I'll just get 800 today. I'll get 800 tomorrow. I'll get 800 the day after. I have now a reason to go out every day. And I had a good time going out and spinning these max particle stops or whatever. And it's just like another thing that I can go out and do and accomplish. But the limit of 1,000 ruins that entire thing. Like everything would be perfect if there wasn't that limit. I would be swimming in max particles. I would be like, Niantic, I'm willing to buy a Poffin from you because I like this mechanic so much.
Yeah.
But so do you think, so you're saying you think there should be no limit, or do you think it should just be a higher limit?
I think it should be a little bit higher.
Okay.
For sure.
So you're not saying like it should just be limitless, like gathering candy or Stardust or XL candy.
Like, at least give me the option to buy more. At least let me be a hardcore whale player.
Well,
and
they're
like
giving you the option to buy more. Oh, buy more storage.
Yeah.
Buy a higher limit or something.
They might do that. I think that sounds right. Actually.
Yeah, you probably just gave Niantic a great idea, Steve.
I
think 2,000 makes more sense because that's about 3 days of you going out and playing, give or take. And then that gives you 3 days to be like, okay, what am I going to spend this on? Whereas like right now, the mindset is I'm going out. I got my 800. I need to spend it tonight if I want to go out and do it again. And I don't know even like a hardcore player that's going to be like, let's just say there's 10 Pokemon you can Dynamax and not 2.
Yeah.
I don't even know a hardcore player that's like, okay, every day I'm picking different Pokemon to power up. Like that's a lot.
think about this for a second. So I agree with you. I do think the limit should be higher. I do think it's kind of weird that like, I also think it's kind of weird that I guess some people love it, some people hate this. You go out and it only takes like, if you're in a big city, it takes very small amount of time to like
Took
do
me like
the new
20
mechanic
minutes.
before you're done. Like,
Yeah.
which is like, I feel like Niantic would want you to be out longer. Like if they can get you to be out longer, like, so like raising that limit would do that because you'd be able to like walk around longer and get to more stops and spin them or whatever. But think about when this, think about how Dynamax works in general, right? Dynamax can be at some point in time will be able to be any Pokemon, right? As when Niantic eventually rolls everything out as they drip feed this stuff. But we all know that like any Pokemon can Dynamax, right? With how the mechanic works in Sword and Shield. So
Except for
down the
Zacian and
line,
Zamazenta.
except okay, sure. But down the line, that you're gonna probably be able to spend those particles fairly easily once like more stuff rolls out. Right now we just have Wooloo and Squavit because it's been 3 days or 5 days of like playing this mechanic. And so it's like, yeah, what are we going to put it into? My one Wooloo that I got from, or my two Wooloo that I got from research, or my one Squavit? Sure, that feels like weird and awkward, and I don't know if I want to put that in there. But you're also like, you're learning the mechanic, right? This is like the how do you use a Pokeball section of the game, right? Like we're just learning the mechanic and like using it that way. That's why they gave us the Wooloo Spotlight Hour, probably, right? Get a bunch of Wooloo candy, get a bunch of XL candy, things like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, and I really hope that they're not going to drip feed Dynamax for the next 7 or 8 years, where like we're not going to have Dynamax Psyduck until 2029 or something. Like maybe that would be kind of wild, but I imagine there will be a time in the not too far off future where we'll have like a pretty good variety of Pokemon to Dynamax and to add stuff to. And I think using those particles on kind of a regular basis may actually not be like as tough and allow you to go and still be able to do stuff. I don't know. I just think like that 1,000 limit might actually, in not too far off in the future, might actually not really hurt because you're just able to put those particles somewhere fairly easily.
Okay, so there's two limits, right? First of all, I definitely agree with the whole like this is an onboarding period, right? And should be kind of viewed like that. But there's the 1,000 particle limit, but there's also a limit on how many power spots you can collect from a day. You can't like collect them and then spend them and then collect more.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and
even
I think that second limit is fine.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think you can only collect it's 8 power stops. You can only go to 8 power stops a day, and then you can do your 2 kilometers, which together is 1,100. I think if there's a limit on anything, if Niantic needs to limit stuff to preserve their game economy, I think that's fine. But I don't think a player who is excited to go out every day to hit these new POIs should be punished for literally going out and playing their game. Like that is what they want. They want us to go out and leave. Right. I had so much fun the first day, and then the second day I was so hyped and I was having fun until I realized, oh, this 1,000 is not per day. It's just all I can hold.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I see what you're saying, and I understand, and I think that there wouldn't be a whole lot of trouble with them actually raising that limit so that, you can at least save up for a couple days. Like to your point, like, if it was something like 2,500, maybe like you could go out for 3 days and like get your stuff. And then you have a little bit more potential options, like, cause you maybe when the raids do come out, like maybe you've done a few of those. So now you can kind of pick which one's your best one. And you can put that toward that. And that gives you more time than like the day of to kind of figure that out. But I really think that, again, this is on an onboarding process. Like they're just like, this is how it works, right? This is why we're giving you all that stuff. This is why we gave you the research, which I don't know about yours, but mine auto completed for me, my step 2. Like I didn't spin 10 power power spots, and it just like completed the step for me. I know some other people in the Slack, the same thing happened. Like it just completed step 2. I didn't spend the allotted amount to complete that task. But
I had to work for mine, Bobby.
not me. But I just feel like I feel like those particles will end up getting used more often than you think once more stuff rolls out. And even if you're not like storing it up, but you may be able to put it toward, this or that, and then it'll get used. I don't know. I just think it'll be used more often than we think as things are rolled out.
I don't disagree. Like if I was to go out on, let's just say on Tuesdays, Dynamax, Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle appear. You could also argue there's like a limit of like you could do 1 free raid a day, and I'm sure there are people who only do their 1 free raid a day and don't give Niantic money, and I more power to that. Those people, you rock. But like I could imagine doing, let's just say 3 of each raid and picking one of those 3 to be like, oh, this is good enough to power up. And now I have the next 2 weeks to be like, okay, today I'm going to do Squirtle, tomorrow Squirtle, the next day Squirtle. After that, I'm going to switch to Charmander. After, like, now you have exactly what Bobby has said. You have a goal and things to spend the particles on.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens after that? Like, you have 5, like, how fast is this drip feed?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. This all falls apart if it's like we are not getting anything else for another 6 months. It's just the 5 that we now have, and there's nothing else coming. Then that's kind of a problem.
I mean, do we know if going into max battles will require particles to get in or not?
Oh, I don't know.
Because if they do, that's another sync, which would make sense in this model, I think.
Does a Dynamax raid battle take a raid pass?
I don't think so. Who could say one way or the other? We're going to find out on Tuesday. There's been plenty of like information that people are talking about leaked from stuff, but as far as official communication goes, I don't think so. I don't think we know the answer to that question.
Yeah, there was some stuff on the Sylph Road, which we talk about from time to time, but I didn't see anything about a dollar raid pass being needed.
I really hope not. And in a weird sort of like likening to, you had mentioned that it doesn't cost Stardust for this system yet either, which I think is good. So if they're able to create, because one of the big complaints I've seen online,
I can tell Chris has a million things to say right now.
I do. One of the things I've seen online that people are complaining about, they're just like, oh, so I get a Dynamax Pokemon to then do a Dynamax battle to then get more Dynamax Pokemon to do more Dynamax battles, right?
Yes.
And there was even a cheeky response from Pokemon Go's like socials where they responded to somebody making that post, and they said, "Why, yes," which is hilarious.
Yes,
but like I don't see a problem. I don't see the problem, especially if you're not stepping on the toes of other resources using other subsystems, which is great. So no Stardust and hopefully no raid passes if they just use Max Particles instead as a stand-in would make more sense. Because then you're not alienating the PvP players, right? Because they're never going to spend their Stardust on anything else besides their Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And the raid passes won't get in the way of people doing their regular raid stuff.
Yeah, I don't understand that complaint of like, I'm doing Dynamax raids to do more Dynamax raids to get more Dynamax Pokemon to do Dynamax. What have you been doing for 8 years?
That's all Pokemon Go is. You're only doing something to get more of something.
It's more of that, which is good design, I think, for this product, honestly. I mean, you can take a 10,000-foot view and be like, what's the point of all of this? Oh, for sure. Be reductive about all the things in your life like that. Please go ahead. See how far that gets you. No, that's not a good way to look at it.
Like, you know what's really funny is like, I don't even want a regular shiny Wooloo. I want a Dynamax shiny Wooloo.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Yep.
Am I going to do a million raids for Dynamax shiny Wooloo? No, because in my head, I don't want to give Niantic raid money. But if Dynamax raids are free and they involve just walking, and I can go to 8 POIs a day and I can walk 2 kilometers, to get more particles, and I need those to get into Dynamax raids, and that's how I do Dynamax raids. I will do more Dynamax raids. That sounds like a great loop. I think that if the future of Pokemon Go is, hey, here's the thing that you boomer Pokemon Go players like, that you've been doing for 8 years, which is spend $1, roll for your shiny chance, and repeat, because that's ultimately what raids are. Most people doing raids are doing it, 1, for PvP, which is a small percentage of players, or 2, they're doing it for shiny chances. That is still going to be there. That is still going to take your money. That's still going to take your Stardust. That's still going to use the Pokemon that you have earned over the last 8 years. This new mechanic, which if you don't like, just ignore. You don't have to participate.
Yep.
Is going to be exploring, walking, and also for free, but we're not going to dip into that Stardust mechanic. But you are kind of starting over. But that's because this is something new. And if you don't like new, because you're a conservative boomer player, which is fine. A lot of video game players are very conservative. They don't like their games to change. They want things to be exactly the way they are. We're not taking away anything else. That's all. Like nothing with this Dynamax launch is saying your old stuff is going away.
Yeah.
If anything, this Dynamax launch, like, it's so siloed off from everything else. To your point, if you don't like this mechanic, you can completely ignore it.
Yeah, I don't like GBL, and I ignore it.
You know, you don't have to like
based, dude.
You can, you see those new POIs, and that's kind of the extent of it. Like, just don't do it if you don't like the mechanic. And like, I get the idea that like, well, this new mechanic is out, and I wish I liked it, right? Or like, it's a new feature that's now being focused on, which means that they're taking away from focusing on whatever else they could be focusing on because they're focusing on this, right? Like, yeah. I mean, that makes sense to a point, right? They're now focusing on this, so these other things aren't getting focus. So I understand that. It's like, this new feature came out, I don't like it, and because it's new and it's going to be focused on, other things that I wish might happen probably won't for now, right? So I understand that, but at the end of the day, like, to Steve's point, like, I also am not a huge GBL fan, so I don't do it. And like, if I want to do it sometimes, or if there's a task to do it, like, sure, I do it, or I'll do it when needed. But otherwise, like, I still have fun with the game, and I just don't participate in that aspect of the game, and it's totally fine.
Yeah, and I feel like there is literally nothing wrong with being happy for other people enjoying something in the game that you also enjoy, because that just means that other people are going to be playing the game that you like more, which means that it's going to be, more popular, and then be more developed in the future, right? So the two of you saying, and myself included, I also don't really GBL, but like this last GBL update, I'm close friends with many GBL players, and they are losing their minds over these changes, right? And so I'm excited for them. That's incredible. Not going to affect my life very much at all. No, not really. But Dynamax might. And for those that it doesn't, I hope that they can adopt that view as well. Just be excited for the rest of us. Like that meme of Squidward looking outside at SpongeBob and Patrick playing through the window. Let us just have our fun. Like, I want a big sheep, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
I play with somebody who always brings up routes. They'll be like, "Oh, we got a party up, and we got to do a route." Like, oh, I forgot about party. 2, I forgot about routes. But like, every time I play, like, that is the thing they bring up right away, and like, they like that, and that's cool. And like, I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like, here's my party, and you can pick the tasks. You like picking the tasks, and you like doing the tasks, and that's cool for them. Like, there are like, Pokemon Go is a relatively big game with all of these different avenues you can go down. And again, my main complaint is the limit, the like 1,000 limit. That is my main complaint, and that kind of soured me for like, oh, I thought I was going to be able to go out every day and kind of like really, really pregame this launch, and I can't, and that's probably intentional. Niantic probably doesn't, but like,
but it does fly in the face of the established playstyle, right? Like, I agree. It definitely feels like it's at odds. It's creating friction between the way that we've been taught to play this game which is to
Yeah,
hoard resources
because
until
I
someone
would have
comes along.
went out every day and done my I do go for a daily walk every day. That's why when I do my adventure incense, but I don't think the adventure incense gets me 2 kilometers. Maybe I don't walk that fast. I don't know. But like I remember walking for 20 minutes the first day, hitting the 8 POIs, doing my adventure incense, and then getting home and being like, oh, I have like 0.3 to go. So I'm just going to go back out and walk around the block. And that feels like something Niantic wants a player to do, is like, walk to finish your things. And I did. And then I realized, like, oh, I can't even redeem this because I already. The other complaint I saw, which is not actually a Niantic thing. It is a Niantic thing, but like it's just a Pokemon thing in general, is like, I want to Dynamax my 100 IV shiny hat Charmander.
Yeah. And
I have to now get a new Charmander. And that's just like a very Pokemon thing.
Yeah.
That's like when you buy Sword and Shield and you're like, I guess I got to get a new Garchomp and IV and EV train this Garchomp because I want to use it in competitive, and Pokemon Home isn't going to work for 6 months. That's just a very Pokemon thing of like, they have done, like, again, I don't think it's not a Niantic thing. Niantic could fix it, I guess, and let you Dynamax your Charmander, but it is a very Pokemon thing to make you re-catch creatures you have been catching for 28 years. Do you know the amount of times I've caught a Poliwag? Every single game. I guess I'm catching this Poliwag. I have a million Poliwags, but I got to catch this Poliwag.
Well, we do. You do have to point out, though, like, just because this is absolutely going to get brought up in the comments, that specifically for Dynamax, you could bring a Pokemon that you had previously caught in and Dynamax it in Sword and Shield.
Yes.
So, like, because I know somebody's going to say, like, this specific mechanic, you could bring an older
Gigantamax,
Pokemon.
No.
Gigantamax, no, until Max Soup came out. But Dynamax, yes, you could bring an older Pokemon. But again, to your point, like, that wasn't until home connectivity happened, which the game came out in November. Home connectivity was in February of the fall. Like, home came out February of the following year. So, yeah, there were still 3 months where you had to play with what you were catching new, right? You couldn't bring your Pokemon in right away and get it Dynamaxed. But, soon after, you were able to, in Sword and Shield, you were able to bring in old Pokemon and Dynamax them.
Yeah. So, like, that introduction was not shocking to me. That's what I expected from Niantic, especially, like, technically in X and Y, you can Mega Evolve any Pokemon if you just give it the Held item. And in this game, you can only Mega Evolve the things you get from Mega Raids, which then lets you do more Mega Raids, which then you catch, and then you do more Mega. It's the same. Oh wait, it's the same loop. Crazy.
Yeah. Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like those players that are complaining or upset, rather, that they can't bring in their 100% IV shiny Charizard, right, or whatever the case might be, that they're kind of freed from that to a degree when they realize that this mechanic is almost self-contained. I mean, as far as we know, right? I mean, your 100% IV Max Charizard is going to still have the same amount of use. That value and usability has not decayed at all with the introduction of this new feature. It is not touched, So I get it, but at the same time, like, it could have been a lot worse,
We're like also in a point with Pokemon Go where, like, not that it needs to be like reset. I don't think that's possible. And I don't know. There's probably an equivalent in like MMOs, like Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft, where they do kind of do resets, or they'll like rebalance everything.
Stat squishes,
But like if I look at my top Pokemon, I have a level 50 lucky shiny Palkia. I have a level 50 lucky shiny Dialga. I have a level 50 lucky shiny Dong Wins Necrozma. I got a regular 98% Kyogre. I got a lucky shiny 98% Kyogre. Like, just those 4 Pokemon. Why would I ever do another raid? Like, why would I ever do another Kyogre raid? I got
Yeah. That's I agree with that. I've been using the same, because people talk to me about that all the time. I've been using the same Pokemon for raids for years.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
exactly. And
there's
like the
no
reason I don't
for
power
me to-
things up, it's I
Yeah.
don't need to. Like I have.
They've recently made some changes, though. I mean, to this, but I mean, for the sake of this argument, I mean, you two are right, but it just in this past like week and a half, they did make some changes that changed the DPS tiers and charts, but not so dramatically that the same Pokemon that you're using are going to make a big difference if they are or are not number 1 and are now number 5 in their respective DPS tiers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because rating is just like that.
I did see I saw somebody in our Slack did mention that like Kartana
Yeah,
went
rest
from
in
like
peace,
number
Kartana.
1 to out of the top 15 or something because
Yeah,
of these
pour one out
changes.
for Cortana.
So it looks
Yeah.
like there were some that were affected, but
Oh,
and I will
man.
say, as someone who used to, when I used to play a lot more with like with a specific group, I used to work in an area that was a heavy Pokemon Go place, and so during work, during breaks, during lunch, we would go out and a group of us would go around and raid and stuff, and I would get with like the group where we would have the minimum amount of people needed to do a raid, and we would try to beat, I think at the time there were like 4-star raids were a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would try to beat the 4. Yeah, this is showing my age here.
Like a Nido Queen or something.
Oh my God.
It was like Tyranitar, for instance. Like there was a 4-star Tyranitar, and we would go in there like me and one other person, and minimum, do what we could to beat the Tyranitar. And at that point in time, the DPS matters, like the making sure you're leveled to the right level like that stuff really does matter, right? So having the highest IV Pokemon, those things really do matter in those times when you're going in with the minimum amount of people trying to beat those raids. So those things do matter, and like to these changes can really affect things like that when you're trying to go in with that minimum amount of people and do that. Which is not, I think, a very high percentage of the people doing raids where they're really trying to go in with the minimum amount. But there are people who like don't have, a group of 15 or 20 to raid with, or can, get a bunch of people with remote raids or whatever, So, I mean, those changes can affect things, and you may need to power up other stuff. So I understand it on that side. But for me personally, like, yeah, I'm using the same Tyranitar that I caught way back when I caught that 4-star Tyranitar in like 2018 or 2019, like still using that one for raids because it works,
I remember
yeah.
when I was in Hawaii and I was live streaming, and I was in some what was the legendary raid in? Oh, it was Shadow Suicune. So yep. I jumped into a raid, Shadow Suicune. I'm like showing the convention hall. I had like 4,000 people watching me on Twitch because like the Twitch drops or whatever, and somebody came in and they were like, "You're using a Melmetal against a Suicune?" And I'm like, like, brother, there are 20 people in this raid. I could be using 6 Stantler and we would still be able to complete it. Like, what? Get off your high horse, man. Like, none of this matters.
You got to set an example, though, Steve. Come on now.
I can't even remember the last time I like looked down at a raid because I'm just tapping.
True.
Really? Like chit chatting with people. I've never dodged. I've never dodged in a raid ever.
Ooh,
wow, that is. I still like building out the teams and stuff. So like, if I know a Pokemon that I'm going to be raiding a lot is coming, I do like to pick out like build a team, set up a team so it's like preset, when I go in there. I like doing that, like, because the thing I like about battling is building the team that I'm battling with. And I know that goes against the fact that I use the same Pokemon as 5 years ago for raiding, but I actually do have quite a variety of Pokemon that I did power up a long time ago for raiding. So like I do like switching in and out those teams. Every once in a while I will power up something new, but it's few and far between. But I do like building that up for raids. I'm not the person that goes in with whatever random team it gives me. Don't even look at my screen and just tap as the raid goes on. Like That's fine. But
I go
do
in
like
with the
building it out.
random team it gives me, minus I will mega evolve the appropriate counter, put that in my first slot, and then I will put my buddy in the 6th slot to get my points.
And that's already more than 99% of people put in, honestly. I mean, I think raids need to be like that. They need to be almost autopilot, because in a scenario where you're raiding with 20 people, in the intended way, right? Which is like a few remotes maybe, but like most of the time, like you're hoping that those 20 people are together in a group doing a community event. Like you want them to be socializing. You don't want them to like be silent, staring at their phone, like trying to time
focusing.
their dodges. Focusing,
Don't talk to me right now. I'm trying to dodge.
Exactly. I mean, like think about Central Park in New York this year, right? That's a perfect example. We had like groups that were just like breaking off into subgroups. Oh, we only have 13 in this one. Oh, now we have 20 in this one. Or oh, there's strangers popping in and out. We got 10 for this raid. It doesn't make a huge difference. I mean, it does a little bit in how much time it takes to complete it, but the gameplay is the same, and then allows you to socialize, which is the other huge part of this game that we're not even like, I guess, accounting for right now.
I kind of that's funny that you say it, because at this point in time I do so many remote raids that like socializing while doing raids is like foreign to me at this
Couldn't
point.
be me.
But so funny story. Back when I played with that big group at work, we were out at a raid, and this older person had just parked her car kind of like right in front of us, and we were standing on the sidewalk. There were maybe about 6 of us raiding, and we all had our phones out because we were raiding, but we were just having a conversation. We're talking about how work's been going that day. We were just socializing. We just happened to have our phones out. This person just starts yelling at us for being on our phones and how our generation is doomed because all we do is stare at our phones. Meanwhile, none of us are actually staring at our phones because it's a raid, so we're just tapping our phones while we're all talking to each other and socializing. And she just starts yelling at us basically for like being on our phones all the time, and then like proceeds to walk away and just yelling as she's walking away at whatever.
She probably doesn't follow the airport instructions.
Nope, no turn signals, so nothing.
But it was interesting to bring that back to the fact that it's like, you're right, like we weren't focusing on the raid. We were all just tapping our phones and actually having a conversation with each other, actually socializing and like having a good time together. And the raid didn't, at the end, we were all like, cool, okay, now let's all check and see who got the shiny, like, and but during the raid, it was like, no, we all just got to talk and hang out. And especially with remote raids, like, I forget that exists.
And I mean, it does exist, just in a different way. Like there are Discord chats or Facebook group chats and stuff like that, but
absolutely,
it's not designed with that in mind. It's designed with like 12 people in a park in a circle in mind,
Yep, for sure.
Chris, did you like go out, do the POIs, all that stuff?
I did. Yeah, 100%. And my Wooloo is rank 2 across the board. Happy to say.
Nice.
But yeah, I also had the same pain point that you had, where I hit that first limit and I was like, oh shucks, this stinks. But the POIs have been plentiful. Like I was really surprised at how many there were around here. And I mean, like I am relatively blessed that there's a big local community in like our square area. I live in Woodstock, Illinois, so there's a huge like burgeoning Pokemon Go community, and they built it up with POIs. But I wasn't expecting that to also translate to these other power spots. And even in dead places where there are not lots of stops, I'm seeing plenty of power spots.
There's, I think we touched on it a little bit, but there is something about opening the Pokemon Go map and seeing everything that was there, but then seeing more.
Yes.
Yep.
Like as far as I know, and Chris and I both talked to Niantic, and they said they were not removing any POIs, but instead all of the Dynamax spots will be new POIs. Well, not really new. They've always been in the game. They're just used for other games.
Additional, now shown.
So, like, for example, I submitted 3 things through Wayfair, and they all got rejected. And I was like, "Oh no, you didn't, Niantic. I know these are all good. I know these are all good, eligible POIs." And then when I went in to see why they got rejected, it was because they were already submitted by other people. So they were duplicates. But this was like a year ago, and it's like, okay, well, they don't exist. That's why I made them. They're not here. They don't exist. And now that Dynamax is here, they got turned into the Max Particle things.
Yep.
And that's what they are now. So,
yep.
So I that is like a plus. Like I think a lot of people have gripes with the Dynamax stuff, whether that's the limit, whether that's like needing to catch new Pokemon, whether that's like they live in the middle of nowhere and they won't have anyone to raid with when this happens, because the POIs are supposed to turn into the Dynamax raid battles. From my understanding.
Right. That's also my understanding. Yeah.
Is it everyone? Do we not know that yet? Or like it's just a few, like some of them will be, like
some of them will, and then I think they're supposed
to
rotate every 3 days or something.
Well, the nature of the spots right now is like how they have a timer, and this is confusing for some people that haven't read through all the blogs. And even if you have, it's kind of confusing. The timer on the power spots is just for how long that one is active, and then after that, it could move.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me when I went out the first day, did my walk, got my power spots, and then woke up the second day, opened the game, and was like, wait, that power spot moved. Like that was there, and now that's over there. And then it took a while. I think it took like someone saying something before I realized that the time on the power spot section was like the time it's gonna go away.
Yeah.
It did not occur to me at all. I was like, I have no idea like what this is, and it's mostly probably because I didn't read something, but I was just like, oh, and then it was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so now I know I have until this time before that's going to move, and that's fine.
And again, this speaks to what Steve was talking about, the frustration about having that maximum, not being able to hoard resources. When we see a timer on a POI, what have we been trained to understand that means this entire time? Yeah. And it's been like, that's a countdown to something happening. Like, oh, this is an active, or this is going to be a max battle in like a day and a half or whatever the timer might show, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take some adjustment, but yeah.
I think next week will go better.
Yeah. I do too.
I like, if you're a casual player, this is probably not a concern because you probably got your 1,000 and you're like sitting on it and waiting. If you're like a hardcore player like me and you're like, I wanted to go out every day and get as much as possible, like Niantic's like, nope, you gotta chill.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully next week when this all unwraps and unveils and hopefully doesn't break, we'll circle back and we'll talk about it. So let's take a break, and then when we come back, we just got a couple of little things to wrap up, and then we'll wrap up the show. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. We have one more small Pokemon Go thing to talk about. It's mostly they just announced events. I'm just going to run through the event calendar here. From September 21st through 22nd will be Pokemon Go City Safari in Jakarta, which is in Indonesia. And that's part of Pikachu's Indonesia journey. He's been everywhere. He's been in Bali. He's been some other part of Indonesia. He's going here now.
He's pray loving. Yeah.
I will be attending Jakarta. I don't think my contract with Niantic is finalized. I'm just disclosing that Niantic offered my flight and hotel for Jakarta. And hopefully they send a contract so I can sign it, because they told me to book my flight and hotel and then they would pay me back. So if the event is good, it means they paid for it. If the event is bad, it means I paid for it.
That's right.
That's the disclosure part. I've never been to Indonesia. I don't know a lot about Indonesia. I'm excited to learn. I watched a couple YouTube videos, and then I realized that, like, you would think that making travel, maybe I'm finding the wrong travel videos, but like I was like looking for like first time in Indonesia, and it was people's first time in Indonesia, but it wasn't like helpful.
Not helpful. Yeah.
Like, I want, like, okay, if it's your first time going, this is like the public transportation you should be looking at. These are the apps you should be downloading. These are like the areas you should be staying in.
Like a beginner's guide.
You should YouTube search for like 5th time to Indonesia and then see how that person travels around Indonesia.
After Jakarta, September 27th through 29th is Pokemon Go Safari Zone, not to be confused with City Safari. That's in Incheon. Incheon is in South Korea. That's Friday, September 27th to Sunday, September 29th. So that's a 3-day event that is going to be in Songdo Central Park. Incheon is like the biggest airport in South Korea. So most people, when you fly to like Seoul, you are flying into Incheon and then you're taking the train into Seoul. So because I will already be in Jakarta and I have to pass through Korea to get back home, I am going to go to Incheon.
Nice.
That's on my own dime, unless Niantic would like to help out.
Hint, hint, wink, wink.
We'll let you all know. It's not there. They've announced a lot of events for the end of the year, which is unusual, I think. Usually we don't get these kind of events. We got that Ultra Beast event that one time in November.
Yeah.
It wasn't that good, but it was an event.
Hey, it was it was what it was.
They announced a brand new experience, which they're saying, those are their words, get ready for a brand new Pokemon Go adventure in November. Pokemon Go Wild area in Fukuoka. And then after that, so that's November 16th through 17th. And then for everyone else, November 23rd through 24th will be a global wild area. We're going to circle back to that in just a second. And then they announced 2 more events. I think these are the rest of the events for the year. Pokemon Go City Safari, which is the same as the Jakarta one, in Hong Kong. That's December 7th through 8th. And then Pokemon Go City Safari, Sao Paulo in Brazil. And that is also, I think I said that wrong, December 7th through 8th. So those are the same weekends. One in Brazil, one in China.
Interesting. Hong Kong.
Yeah. Hong Kong is on my list of cities to go to. Hong Kong looks like
I love Hong Kong.
A real cool city.
I went to Hong Kong on my honeymoon. We went to Hong Kong and Japan because my wife is from or lived in Tokyo for many years. So we went, but we went to Hong Kong first, and then Tokyo. So fun place for sure. Great place.
Okay, so going back to a brand new event, it's already confusing that there's City Safari and Safari Zone and Go Tour, which is what the Americas have been getting.
Yep.
And now there's Wild Area, which if you have not played Sword and Shield, the Wild Area in Sword and Shield is where you find the Dynamax and the Gigantamax raids.
Yep.
So I don't know how different a Wild Area would be from a Safari Zone or from a Safari Zone, because apparently this is going to be taking place in a park, not the city.
Yeah.
And my guess is November 16th and 17th is they're going to debut the first Gigantamax Pokemon. And then that Gigantamax Pokemon will go to everyone the 23rd and the 24th.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
That would make sense.
I don't see it being similar to a Safari Zone in the sense that a Safari Zone has never been a global event. So the fact that this has a global event aspect to it makes it almost feel like it's, I'm not going to say it's a Go Fest, but it almost feels like a winter Go Fest or like a fall, like end of fall type of like, because he's got the, wherever it's going to be in person, or we know it's going to be in person in Japan.
Yeah.
And then the global one a week later. It gives off more of that vibe than it does like a Safari Zone, because we've never had a global Safari Zone or a global any of these other things. We've never had a global.
Well, we had a global.
We have had Go Tour. The tours are global as well. Okay, so maybe let me back that up. More like a Go Tour than a Safari Zone in my mind.
But what does that mean gameplay wise though? I feel like that's the big question, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that they're calling it a wild area, to Steve's point, seems, Gigantamax introduction would make a lot of sense. I also feel like, depending on how many more Galarian Pokemon we have, I feel like there'll be more Galarian Pokemon spawns, because just wild area obviously refers to Sword and Shield's wild area.
True.
So
Yeah.
I feel like they would be kind of heavy, maybe heavier on Galar for those couple of days. Which
Actually, it might not be
are...
in a park. It just says join thousands of trainers in the beautiful city of Fukuoka, Japan, 16th and 17th, and participate wherever you are in the world, 23rd and 24th. So maybe it is the whole city.
But the picture is a big wild area. The picture looks like, I mean, it's obviously not a picture of, it's just the background for the image, but I'm just saying, like, when they do their, if you look at the events, right, aren't the backgrounds for the images specific to, maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but like Safari Zones.
Yes, the pictures behind are specific to the area.
Yeah. So like City Safaris, the picture, it's like the city, right? It's called a City Safari, but like Safari Zone, and the Safari Zones typically happen in parks, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Safari Zone is park, City Safari is anywhere in the city.
So I don't know. The way that this all comes together kind of makes it feel like it's going to be more of a park experience for the in-person one to me. And then, global is global. So
yeah, I think it is crazy. In 2024, we are announcing a new in-person experience that is not a Safari Zone or not a City Safari. That is something else. Because how do you... The main difference between City Safari and Safari Zone is just one is a park, one is in a city. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, and it made sense, right? Because those are two like promotional outlets for them to do, or to target markets and areas where they're not ready to do like a Go Tour or a Go Fest. Like, I think from a business standpoint, it made a lot of sense. This, I just like, okay, well, if it's not a city or if it's not a park, or if it's both, then is this then another middle step between those type of events and a Go Tour or a Go Fest, right? Because I felt like Go Tour was that already. Like, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
To an extent. I guess my question is, does this become something that becomes a regular thing? Because it says, ready for a brand new Pokemon Go adventure this November. But does that mean that this is going to become, we're going to have a wild area every year? Or are they really just leaning into Galar right now? And this is just a specific event that's specific
we will introduce one Gigantamax Pokemon a year per the wild area.
Oh, God. No, please, no. No, I do not need to wait till 2030 for Gigantamax Kingler. Like, but I do wonder, like, if this is just leaning into Galar with the max out season, and that we're not going to get another wild area, or maybe we will, a couple of them, but like that it will then not be something like where we're Safari Zones we've had since 20. Was it the first Go Fest where Safari Zones were also introduced, or was it the second Go Fest?
Safari Zones were like the year before COVID.
Okay, so we've had Safari Zones for 5 years now. Like, are we gonna have wild areas for 5 years? I don't know.
I think at the very least they're doing a good job at going other places. Like when you see like complaints of like, why does Japan get everything? Like, America's gotten the Go Tours nonstop. America's like guaranteed a Go Fest every year. If anything, like Europe and them, I don't know, they still get a lot of stuff too. Like they got Madrid, they got Barcelona, they got multiple things in Germany. They got London, 2 years in a row?
I think South America is like where their new focus has been too, and Mexico has gotten like the one-off events a lot.
They got 3 events. I think Mexico has gotten so far.
I feel like APAC is really the last spot. I mean, besides the usual suspects, and I mean, like Australia is so deserving, and that's where we're seeing it now. But all the other places, basically all the other continents that people were used to complain about, have now had a track record of a few years of events.
Yeah, just Australia and New Zealand are like kind of like the last ones left. Like you said.
Yeah.
Well, Africa.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming they're going where the player base is.
Sure.
Well, they did try to do the one. It's not Africa, it's Middle East, but they did try to do the one in Saudi Arabia that got canceled.
Right.
But Singapore's had an event. Taiwan has had an event because I think there was one in Taipei.
Did Egypt have an event, or am I making that up?
No,
Egypt
no
has
event for Egypt.
Sigalith.
They just got Sigalith and Furfuru.
I still need Sigalith.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
But yeah, this is that Brazil event they talked about at Gamescom, and now it's like finalized. So it's cool. I am surprised at the amount of events for the rest of the year, and if they've really ramped up these events, I'm curious of how many events will be happening next year. Like, are there going to be more safari zones? Are there going to be more city safaris? Are there going to be more wild areas? Like, are we going to get a Unova Go tour? Because that would be next in line. Are we going to get 4 locations for GoFest instead of 3 locations? Like, once Niantic gets to an area like Indonesia, then they can keep doing events.
Yeah.
This is like their 4th Indonesia event, I think, at this point. So that's good for Brazil, good for China. Japan and US have kind of already been safe. So we're just at this point really like, but to be fair, I don't know how big the Australian market is.
I mean, big enough for them to have had a regionals for GBL.
That's true.
And large enough for me to hear about it all the time. I mean, I personally have several Australian friends, obviously, so that kind of makes it a little biased, but it's overdue, I feel.
They always get everything. They always get everything first. And then they deal with all the but I mean, like, so that when there's a problem, they're the ones that have to, they take the brunt of it. So I feel like that in itself is deserving of them getting some
100%.
Events.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Niantic knows the percentage of players in these areas.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have all the data.
Like we know that like US and Japan are number 1 and 2. And I'm sure that flips between player size and money depending on events or whatnot.
Yeah.
Also, the US is just significantly bigger than Japan.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, teensy bit.
And we knew Germany was up there as a big player base. That's why there were so many GoFests in Germany initially.
I think Brazil also has a ginormous player base.
Yeah. I don't think it was initially at first.
Right.
But then it jumped when they added, because Portuguese wasn't in the game initially. I think Portuguese came like 2 to 3 years afterwards.
And
then it skyrocketed once Portuguese got added.
Right.
Some stuff from last week. We talked about the hot air arena for the TCG and how that related to Pokemon ZA. PokeBeach updated their website after we recorded the episode. Apparently there was a mistranslation. So hot air arena is actually being changed to heat wave. So it is heat wave arena is the appropriate translation. So kind of throws a wrench in the whole anime collaboration, but it doesn't change too much besides that.
Still gonna have a Charizard in that set, I think.
Yeah,
it doesn't take away from that.
Still probably safe for Charizard there.
Yeah.
Pokemon Center Nagoya.
Before we hop into that, can I say another TCG thing real quick?
Oh yeah, totally.
So we have Stellar Crown releasing this Friday, so September 13th. But what I forgot to mention last week is pre-releases have started for Stellar Crown. So if you like playing the TCG, or if you want to check out the new set prior to Friday, you can look up on the Pokemon website. I think if you go to the Play Pokemon website under the TCG section, you should be able to find an event locator, type in your zip code, and it will show you all the local card shops, all the local places near you that are that do events, play Pokemon events, and they will show you if they're doing a pre-release. So the way a pre-release works is you sign up. It's typically about $30, and you get a build-in battle box, which will come with like a pre-constructed 40-card deck, and then 4 extra packs of whatever set the pre-release is for. So this time it'll be for Stellar Crown. So you get 4 packs of that. And then what you do is after you sign up, you go in and you actually play a little tournament with everyone else who signed up. You use that 40-card pre-constructed deck and you play a little tournament. So if you're into playing the game, if you want to get some new cards a few days early, just go to the Play Pokemon website and you can find the event locator there to see if there's anything nearby you where you can go play. They're pretty fun.
Is there anything in this set that you're like really excited about?
I don't know playable wise what's super playable, but from a collecting standpoint, from a collector standpoint, they are now introducing the Stellar Terras, and so they have like these rainbow type cards that look really, really cool.
But not rainbow rares.
They're not rainbow rares like back in the Sword and Shield and the Sun and Moon days, but the cards themselves have like rainbow colors around the borders. So
that's rad.
Yeah, they have some pretty cool. There's a couple of there's a Terapagos one that is very, very cool. That's the one that I'm gonna be chasing this set. But yeah, should be pretty cool. Some cool stuff coming.
Oh yeah, I just looked it up, and if this is the card you're talking about, this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the Terapagos one.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, yep. So it should be a fun set to collect. And it's not a big set. It's actually a smaller set as well. Even though it's not a special set, it does have booster boxes. It has individual booster packs, but it's actually a little bit of a smaller set than what we've had this past year. So that's kind of nice.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Pokemon Center Nagoya is closing on September 8th. That's the day we're recording this. It will reopen again on October 12th, and they're changing the mascot. So the mascot is going to be Celebi.
Sure Joe's happy.
They're doing it for a bigger space for photo opportunities. There will also be a giant Magikarp statue. There will be exclusive Celebi related merchandise, including dolls, socks, more. This is... I feel like not a lot of people go to Nagoya, but it's in between Tokyo and Kyoto.
Okay.
And if you want to see the Cramorant Pokélid that just got added this year, it is.
And who wouldn't?
Yeah. First, you got to go to Nagoya, and then you got to go 45 minutes north into the middle of nowhere, and then you'll find a Cramorant lid. So, So if you're traveling to Japan for the wild area, this will be reopened by then. But Fukuoka is a 6-hour bullet train ride from Tokyo, so maybe only 4 hours from Nagoya.
Okay, that's
not that bad.
Not a day trip, maybe a couple days. Spend the night and come back the next day.
And then final news here is there is now a SkinnyDip collaboration that's on Pokemon Center. This was actually on SkinnyDip's website initially, which is a London-based brand. Apparently, they started in 2011 for iPhones, and they expanded into apparel, beauty, and more. You can find the SkinnyDip stuff on Pokemon Center, but if you went to SkinnyDip's website, it might be sold out by the time of this. You could get any of the 151 Pokemon. They only have like a limited selection on PokemonCenter.com, but they do have like wash bags and tote bags and bracelet straps, which were not on SkinnyDip's website. But if you, for whatever reason, wanted a Goldeen phone case, that was your chance.
These are cool. Cool. I like these cases. I assume that these all are for there's not for the iPhones, obviously, that are going to be announced tomorrow or today as this comes out. But,
yeah.
These are for previous ones. Oh yeah, up to the 15. Got it. Up to the
And these are
15
all
Pro Max.
Kanto Pokemon too, right? Yeah,
Yes.
It looks like it.
SkinnyDip still has a bunch of Pokemon stuff on their website. They do have AirPod cases. They do actually have clothing. If you want like a Mewtwo hoodie or a Pikachu hoodie, they have that. It's just SkinnyDipLondon.com. But yeah, this launch happened, I want to say a little over a month ago, and now some of it is on PokemonCenter.com.
I wonder what that agreement looked like to not, because it just came to PokemonCenter.com, right? But it was on the
Yes.
Skinny Dip website for all that time.
Yes, if you
I feel
want, if you are one of the people that wanted a Spearow phone case, or Fearow or Ekans, you are in luck because the Fearow and Spearow phone case are still in stock. I'm trying to pick very obscure Pokemon that don't get
those
merchandise.
popular Pokemon are still in stock.
That's crazy.
What an amazing chance to own
If you were a
Spearow phone
Venonat
case.
lover,
Ooh.
they have a Venonat phone case.
Actually, hold the phone, literally.
I don't know the quality of these phone cases. I have not met anyone who has had a Skinny Dip phone case, so I don't know if like, I don't know what the drop protection is. I don't know how thick they are. I don't know if the image wears off after 6 months. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they seem like they are rubber cases, maybe based on the look of the
That's
case.
what it looks like,
the
yeah.
rubber,
Silicone or something.
Silicone, yeah.
I'm sure they're probably equitable to what you would probably get like online, like a $20 like transparent case.
Except these are 50 because of the Pokemon tax.
Pokemon tax. But I'm just like we're talking like just looking at it, it kind of looks like it'd be similar.
Yeah, I'm looking at like the details of the case. It does look like they have the anti-shock bumper corners. You can kind of tell from the case. It looks like they're a little bit
nice,
bulkier there. Raised edges for protecting the screen face. They're scratch resistant. They are drop tested.
I don't
Who knows
know
what that means, but they are drop tested.
For the Pokemon Center stuff, it looks like they only have the iPhones. But if you go to Skinny Dip's website, they do have Android. You got to scroll all the way down, but they have.
That's weird that Pokemon took the.
That's how it is. That's how it is in
route.
Japan too. If you ever go to a Pokemon Center in Japan, it's like all iPhone cases. I'm assuming they just sell better.
Probably. It's also like narrowed down, right, to a iPhone versus the many different. I mean, there are obviously Android winners, right, where people mostly have this or that, but maybe they just sell better.
Making a definitive comprehensive collection for an iPhone is much simpler than for Android. Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know what Android phone case this is. It doesn't
looking.
It just says Android.
No, it's if you click on it, it does say latest range of Android cases online for our Pokemon collection, from Samsung S24 Ultra to Samsung 23 Plus. It looks like.
Oh, they have a bunch. If you hit the drop down menu, it goes Google Pixel 3 all the way up to Google Pixel 6.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, look at all the Samsung Galaxies.
Huh. But I think that's again why you see iPhones in store, because you don't have to stock a million models. You just have to stock like the last 2 years of recent.
It is kind of interesting that they only go to the Google 6. They just released the Pixel 9, right? So that's a few years. That is a few years back for that, but they go all the way to the S24 for Galaxy. So yeah. So it looks like the Pixel and the Galaxy is really their Android picks there for cases.
The Arcanine case is so good looking.
Yeah, these are cool. I'm definitely not I'm a very
I'm very picky with my cases.
Is just matte black. I'm very boring when it comes to my cases. But these look very cool for people who do like some imagery.
All right. Well, that's our episode. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bobby. Chris, where can people find you and your podcast?
Well, you can find us at GoCast Podcast pretty much everywhere. Just GoCast Podcast, one word. It's also our website. It's also all of our handles on socials. Very easy. Nice and clean.
Easy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We will be back next week, of course. And then I don't know what the plan is when I'm traveling, but obviously we won't miss a Monday. So we'll figure that out. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Chris. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are
super effective.
Super considering a Pokemon case. Effective.